Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of the Arsenal Transfer Show, joining you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time, although this morning, of course, not in the UK, here in Denmark at the moment in Copenhagen, recording live still at 9 a.m. Danish time, so still very much on target time-wise, and Arsenal have very much been on target in the transfer window, it seems. We're going to talk about all that and more very shortly. Before we do, please make sure that you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hoping that the audio sounds clear to you. I did bring a travel microphone with me, so I'm hoping that it's coming through loud and clear. Let me know if it's not. But good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Thank you for joining us, Anthony, Nexus, Jan. We've got Gary, we've got Jay Dime, we've got Olawale, Mohammed. We've got who else have we got in the chat box? Scroll up a little bit more. We've got Wu Tang, we've got David, Thomas, Phil, and plenty more as well in the chat box, which is always fantastic to see. So yes, yesterday was a big day in the world of Arsenal news, which was a really, really important day and will be important for Arsenal's summer. It is expected that some announcements will happen in the near future, and an announcement did happen yesterday as well. We're going to talk about all of that and more, so let's crack on with those stories. First of all, Arsenal announced the signing of Kai Havertz. Obviously, we kind of knew that this was coming anyway because of the leaks that we've seen online, and but he committed to Arsenal and speaking to the club. In fact, I mean, it's probably better to hear first of all from the club, and then we'll hear from the player. So Edu said, "We're excited to bring Kai to the club, and great work by everyone to get this deal complete. Kai is an excellent addition to our squad who will bring great attacking quality and versatility. As an experienced 24-year-old, his signing represents another important step in strengthening our young core of talented players we have at Arsenal. We look forward to working with Kai." Arteta said Kai is a player of top quality. He has great versatility and is an intelligent player. He will bring a huge amount of extra strength to our midfield and a variety to our play. Interesting how he uses the words bring extra strength to our midfield. Clearly a sign of where we see maybe Havertz playing in the near future. We welcome Kai and his family to Arsenal Football Club, and we are all excited to start working with him when we start pre-season training soon. And then Kai Havertz himself says, "It's super exciting for me to be joining this amazing club and to be part of the Arsenal family. This club has such a big history, and I hope that we can achieve lots of things. The mentality in Arsenal squad is very high, and you can feel that. That was one of the reasons why it has been so hard to play against Arsenal recently. The aim is to win trophies, and I'm going to give everything to do that to the supporters and everyone at the club. I'm now looking forward to meeting all the players and the staff when we come back for pre-season." So there's Kai Havertz's thoughts on the situation. Edu and Arteta as well getting what is a big risk, and it's, that's what we've maintained throughout our discussions talking about Kai Havertz, is this is a really, really big risk indeed. So let's see if it pays off. I'm hopeful that it will. I'm confident that it will. We've been really, blessed by what business Arsenal have been able to do under Mikel Arteta, especially with the big investments that we've made. So hopefully it's another success story to add to the list of hits rather than the list of misses. However, Havertz did air frustration of the leaked video that went out yesterday or the day before yesterday. We talked about this on yesterday's show. I was very critical of the leak that went out, to which some people took some issue with for some reason. But I think Havertz has kind of summed up here why I was frustrated with it. He tweeted saying, "I would have preferred for you to hear my thoughts on leaving Chelsea first from myself before my thoughts on me joining my new team. This isn't my style, and it upsets me that you had to hear it off in this way. I write this letter with a heavy heart to all the fans. A big thank you for all your support. We achieved a dream of winning the Champions League together." So you can obviously go to Kai Havertz's Twitter feed to read that letter that he sent online. And it's a good message. But I think obviously now we are with the aim of moving forwards with Kai Havertz, and hopefully that we can see him win plenty of silverware in an Arsenal shirt now as well. Also, what's important to point out with Kai Havertz is that he will continue to wear the number 29 shirt. That's been the number that he's worn continually in the Premier League with Chelsea at Bayer Leverkusen. So he will indeed wear the number 29 as well, again, at Arsenal. So you can start buying your shirts if you need to. Now, moving on to our penultimate story, only a few transfer stories to discuss today, with obviously the gravitas and the magnitude of the big deal that we're going to talk about. But expectation on Jurrien Timber is that there will be an agreement between the clubs of upwards of around £40 million. Arsenal's second bid did go in recently, and we're still waiting to hear whether or not that is indeed been rejected or not. Of course, just because you make an offer, it doesn't mean that the outright offer is going to be rejected. It might be like we've seen with the headline story we're going to talk about today, that the bid can go in and then further negotiations take place around that figure before you come to a final agreement. But there is overall expectation that Arsenal are indeed going to be signing Jurrien Timber and adding him to Arsenal's squads and Arteta's group for next season. Brilliant news for him as well. He has always said that Arsenal are kind of the number one that he wants. He's already agreed personal terms with the club unofficially, so that is obviously really positive, and hopefully we see Jurrien Timber in an Arsenal shirt very, very soon indeed. But our headline story of the day can be nothing else other than Arsenal have indeed agreed a £105 million deal with West Ham United for Declan Rice. There is expectations now that the player will undergo his medical and that we will see hopefully a formal announcement in the coming days, maybe in the week or so. We'll get that official announcement. There are some final details said to be being talked about behind the scenes between Arsenal and West Ham over the structure, but West Ham have agreed the figure with Arsenal. The finer details are being sorted, and then it'll be a case of this deal being officially made. Of course, yesterday morning we did our show at 8 a.m. and we talked about the fact that other than the actual bid that David Ornstein reported on Monday evening going in, or rather Tuesday evening going in, that West Ham wanted more and that they wanted to see the structure change somewhat. There is said now to be an agreement of that £105 million. And Manchester City, of course, later on that morning pulled out of the race. They did not choose to come back in with another bid. And at that point, West Ham kind of lost any leverage that they had left to negotiate in the deal. They didn't have any clubs to kind of lean back on to say, you know, well, this club are interested, they're willing to pay this amount of money, you need to up your bid. And because of that, Arsenal were, in the end, it seems, successful in getting the player. What we've learned from this is, of course, that Edu and Arteta were both absolutely critical in the deal to sign the England international, and both deserve significant praise for getting the deal done. The amount of times that we've talked about, or others, we discussed other kind of viewpoints around that these guys can't get priority deals done, that they can't do the big business that Arsenal need. Well, you know, there's a lot of humble pie going around this morning, it's probably fair to say, and both of Edu and Arteta have been absolutely key in making sure that we get this deal done. So massive props to both Arteta and Edu. And as I said before, hopefully we see the cogs turning very soon and we see official announcements coming out regarding Arsenal's signing of Declan Rice. That brings us to an end of part one. So we're going to move to part two now and your questions right after this. Of course, we're going to be continuing to promote our fundraiser. If you've not yet got involved, please make sure that you do. Myself and some good friends are going to be doing our 72 holes of golf in one day in support of Cancer Macmillan support. If you haven't already donated, I encourage you to do so. It's a really, really fantastic cause. We've had plenty more people donate now. The target we've set around £1,000 to see if we can kind of reach that figure, and I'd make big shout out to those people that have indeed begun to throw in your donations. A massive thank you to Terry, to Philip, Nigel, Stuart, Kate and Andy, Olivia, Nikki, Thomas, Paul and Richard. Thank you, everyone, so far for tuning in. It's always great, by the way, if you... I see Rich has done this. Rich Kanu in the chat, who, of course, we know is a regular listener of the channel. If you do donate, leave your YouTube handle in brackets in the comments so I can tell who you are, because I recognise the chat box far easier. But thank you to everybody that's already donated. We're already up to £350 of the £1,000 target that we've set, and we'd love to try and smash through that target. So link down in the description if you'd like to help us with our longest day golf challenge in raising money for Cancer Macmillan support. Please do get involved. Right then, let's go into the chat and get some of your questions. And Thomas, I see your donation. Thank you, my friend. Really very kind of you indeed. William says, Tom, should Timber by Pitbull and Kesha be Jurrien Timber's chance? The Rice baby for Declan. I think we can let the Arsenal fans in the stadiums come up with the chant. You know that they are very good at coming up with some very imaginative chants for players. So I don't think we need to worry about that. It's a little bit too easy, I think, the Timber one in particular. So maybe we should be looking to try and come up with something a little bit more imaginative, maybe. Don Button says, and thank you for the donation, £100 million is a lot for Rice, but I can't help but feel that in a few years' time, we'll be looking back and feeling that it was an absolute bargain. Dan, I hope that you're right. Yes, it's a lot of money. Yes, I think it's more money than Declan Rice's actual value is, but it's difficult to know what on earth a player is worth in this day and age. It's difficult to know how much players are worth because the figures that we've seen players go for, like Anthony, Mudryk, Enzo Fernandez, have been absolutely ridiculous levels of money. So it's really hard to know what players are actually worth in this day and age. So hopefully we see that the money start to come down. But Arsenal had to get this deal done. They've gone in seriously, they've gone in aggressively, and they have agreed this deal with West Ham. And it's going to be really, really big for Arsenal when it is indeed finally announced. Oxymato says, why is it that when we are lowballing, we are labelled as a stingy club? And then we put in that 105 million and now it's Rice is average and we've paid too much to him. We can't win when you're a Gooner. And I think you've summed it up, to be honest. You just can't win as Arsenal fans. There is always going to be criticism. There is always going to be, frustratingly, there's always going to be people that find a negative angle to talk about with Arsenal, which is a real shame, but it is the reality of it as well. Now, I've just seen, I feel like Stephen's doing this whenever we get a brand new signing, but Stephen Wolf Pereira, who's one of our fantastic and really generous members, has donated yet another 50 memberships to the chat. So for those that are joining us in the chat box this morning, congratulations for getting new memberships. And Stephen, very, very generous of you indeed. For the benefit of the chat box, we got to hope Arsenal pull off about 10 signings. That said, Stephen might go broke if Arsenal do that. So let's wait and see. But Stephen, massively appreciated. I'll make sure that I leave a link to the Discord server in the community tab of the channel for those of you that are not yet already part of our Discord server. If you are indeed an expert member or a TGT ambassador, you can become a part of our TGT family's Discord server. And I look forward to welcoming you more so into the chat box. It's going to be great, and into the Discord server as well. Delt says, surely your fundraiser should include 73 holes. Very clever. Balaj says, Tom, are we going to get Tchouaméni or Lavia? And Stephen, thanks so much for the generosity. Balaj, now a member as well. Thanks to Stephen's generosity in the chat box. Fantastic. Look, I think that when it comes to Tchouaméni, it's a difficult deal. I think that there is maybe more hope than there is reality in the potential for Tchouaméni to leave Real Madrid. I don't think it makes much sense for Real Madrid to allow Tchouaméni to go. I think they've got a great young core of players. They've got the experienced players like Kroos and Modric that at the moment are staying, but they are coming towards the end of their time with Real Madrid, be it this season, be it next season. And you've got Bellingham, Camavinga, Valverde and Tchouaméni, who as a core look a great kind of set for the future. Even though they've just brought Jude Bellingham into the club as well. I just think that as a core is really strong. And I don't know why they would move that on. That said, if Arsenal can go and get Tchouaméni, I think it would be a very intriguing deal for Arsenal to potentially do during this window. So I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying that it's a very difficult deal for Arsenal to do. Romeo Lavia, on the other hand, obviously a much simpler deal for Arsenal to do. Still expensive, between 40 and 50 million pounds. There's an expectation that'll cost. But there is a great, I think, possibility of that deal happening. It makes a lot more sense. Premier League experience as well is going to be key. So all of those things, I think, make key bits of sense there. Farouk, thank you so much for joining up as a member yourself, and welcome to the TGT family as well. Guy in the chat says, good luck for the golf challenge, my friend. Thank you, Guy. Very kind of you indeed. And says, I hope we start hearing rumours soon for a 20-goal a season striker. That would be the icing on the cake. I think for me, that I saw a few comments about this, people suggesting that maybe we should have used the Rice money on an Osimhen or something like that. Arsenal last season scored 88 goals, which was the most they've ever scored in a Premier League season. You know, more goals than they scored during the Invincible season, more goals than they've scored during their other title-winning season. It's the record that they've got for goals scored. And we did that despite not having our main striker, Gabriel Jesus, for a third of the campaign. And all of those things combined, from my perspective at least, give me the indication that actually, no, a 20-plus goal a season striker is not necessarily a necessity, and perhaps the dynamic of adding that type of striker to the team would change things too much. I'm guessing, and it's purely theory right now, but I think we've seen goals from Ødegaard, Martinelli, Saka that have obviously come from having a presence like Jesus in the side. That said, during that period that Jesus was out, and we had Eddie Nketiah in, and then Trossard, of course, came in as well. But Trossard got a really high number of assists during that period as well. And it does seem that a player in that role needs to be collaborative, needs to be, you know, adding to the assists, adding to the goals in the squad, and that's what's most important for us. Peter, thank you. Peter Eriksson, thank you so much for the kind donation. Very, very kind of you indeed. And I think I saw Mike Freeman joining up as a member as well. Thank you for the support. We are, by the way, very close to hitting our target this summer of 50,000 subscribers. We're just under 1.4K away from that. So if you are new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe. If you haven't liked the video as well, that really helps us out too. And if you have watched on catch up, make sure that you leave some comments down below on anything that we discussed today. What are your thoughts on the Declan Rice deal? What are your thoughts on the viewpoints that have been so critical of Arsenal over the course of the summer window? So many people saying Arsenal can't do this deal. Man City will sign Rice now that they've bid for him. And Arsenal have proven those people wrong. Edu and Arteta have proven those people wrong. Tell us what you feel about that in the comment section down below. Let's go to Ben says, surely we only get another midfielder if Partey and Xhaka both leave. I would prefer to keep Partey, and the option he gives us outweighs most of the midfielders that we are linked with. And I agree with this. I feel as though keeping Partey, adding Rice, adding maybe a Lavia to the side as well. It's a really good group of players that you've got there in terms of competition going into the Champions League games for next season. That's going to be really important for Arsenal, is making sure that we've got the depth that we need in the squad. So that's the most important thing as well. Masabulele says, good morning, Gooners. In my opinion, it was never a Xhaka role. It's a role Granit adapted wonderfully. Havertz, Vieira, Smith Rowe, Zinchenko, Rice, or anyone else can play that position in their own way. Something that I have said consistently is you need to move your way from using taglines like the Xhaka role. You know, that needs to be something that's of the past. We can't be focusing too much on the Xhaka role because Xhaka made that place his own. So that's really, really important. I do want to check if Peter left a comment, because I know that he left a donation. I think sometimes some people click the enter button before they've left the comment. I'm searching for it, but I can't think of it. Stephen says, what do we think? Can we get to 500 likes? The video currently sitting on 326. Come on, let's see if we can get it out to 500 likes. Stephen's gifted 50 memberships in the chat. Surely we can get today's show out to 500 likes during the stream to celebrate Arsenal's agreement for Declan Rice. Make sure you have pressed that thumbs up button. Take the time to do so. Nav says, I think Gunnerblog is near 50. Gunnerblog's reached 50K and gone through it. Some fantastic pieces of content from James over the last few days or so, last week. Really stepped up the content. If you're not subscribed to Gunnerblog, hoping that we're going to be able to have a chat on the channel at some stage as well. We're both quite busy at the moment, but hopefully we're going to sort of collaboration at some point in the near future as well. But a massive congratulations for James on reaching 50K. He's been doing videos for a really long time, doing those on the whistle videos that stretch back years. So it's fantastic to see him reach that milestone on YouTube as well. Gooner Gang says, Tom, are we at the sell to buy stage after Timber? It's an important point. It's a really good question, actually. Is spending £200 million on Rice, Havertz and Timber leaving Arsenal in a position where if they want to sign more players, they're going to have to sell some? Arguably, potentially. I think not necessarily because of the money side of things, but actually because of the space in the squad. We need to start moving players on. That said, we do have a lot of players that, if you look at their profiles, they're players that are more likely to leave at the end of the window rather than players that are more likely to leave during the early stages, because they're not going to be people's priorities. You know, that's the reality. Those players are not going to be guys that clubs are prioritising the signing of, other than, say, Tierney, Balogun, maybe Nketiah, to a lesser extent, potentially Partey. But I think also now we have to consider the fact that Granit Xhaka's move to buy Leverkusen is probably going to start progressing, considering Rice's deal has been agreed. I'd probably think that we're going to start seeing Granit Xhaka's move to Switzerland, to Germany, start to materialize as well. Let's go to Pungi Pung, who says, Tom, do you think Arteta sees Kivior as a backup left back? I'm sure that Tomiyasu can play there, but if Tierney leaves, I'm quite concerned about our depth there. And lastly, Stephen is OP. Stephen's fantastic in the chat, isn't he? Very generous fella indeed. I think that it's a great question to talk about, whether or not the left-back position is a concern. What I would say is that we've got Zinchenko that can play there, we've got Kivior that can play there, and we've got Tomiyasu that can play there. That's 3 players that you've got that can potentially operate in that role. So I think that it's actually quite well stocked, and there's not a massive necessity to sign somebody even if Tierney leaves. If you remember, like when Zinchenko was coming off, it wasn't always Tierney that was coming in. It was Tommy that was starting, or it was Kivior that was starting. So it's not a guarantee, if Tierney leaves, that we sign a left back in that position. Moving into other questions as well in the chat box. So many of you, by the way. There's over 2,100 of you listening live. It's amazing. Thank you, everybody that is doing so. I'm hoping that the audio is fine. I'm hoping you can hear me fine. I am using the travel microphone whilst I'm away at the moment, but I hope you appreciate the show that we're putting on today. There won't be, obviously, another show later on today. There will be the normal 8 a.m. show back tomorrow morning. And then, of course, I'll be in the usual surroundings from the weekend. So very much looking forward to that. Thomas says, do you think there is any way that we would now go for Caicedo? I don't think so. I think it was most likely now. I had some belief at the beginning of the window that maybe we would do it. But I think the prices that ultimately we are being and are discussing at the moment is it's just not feasible to get both of them for under 100 million each. Rice is going to cost us over 100 million pounds. Caicedo is probably going to cost Chelsea upwards of 80 million pounds, maybe 100 million pounds, or any other club that comes in for him. Brighton are playing, as they always do, hardball on that deal. So I just can't see it. I can't see it happening. I just don't think it's going to be possible. I just don't think it's going to be possible. Stephen says, if we get the video up to 500 likes, he's going to donate another 50 memberships. Stephen's a madman. Stephen is unleashed. Stephen is uncontrollable. We are currently on 521 likes. So I think, Stephen, you might... He has done it as well. Honestly, this man is unbelievable. Thank you to Stephen. Again, 50 more memberships donated to the chat box. All I can say is Stephen is very, very kind indeed. Stephen is being very, very generous indeed with the channel and with the memberships as well. For those of you that leave super chats and stuff, can I recommend not leaving super chats for the next month or so? I know that it's not going to stop people entirely because they want their comments read out and things like that. But please do send in your donations to our fundraiser that we are doing, the Longest Day Golf Challenge. For the Gooner Talk Macmillan fundraiser. Link is down in the description. If you've not yet donated, please do get involved. I can see so many people already very thankful to Stephen in the chat box, already donating his memberships again. We reached 500 likes. We've reached the end of the show. It was only going to be a shorter show, of course, because I am on holiday. So I am still doing these shows despite being away at the moment. Thank you to everybody that's tuned in. A massive thank you to Stephen as well for the very kind 100 memberships that he's provided. The wolf in the chat box. Indeed that he is. Thank you to everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the show. I know I've not been able to go on as long as I would have liked, but as you can expect, I am away at the moment. So at the weekend, we will be doing some significant shows on Rice. I will be getting a tactical breakdown out for you as well, looking specifically at Declan Rice and getting some more information about him to you. I've kind of held off. I usually do tactical breakdowns even when we're just linked to players. Because of the magnitude of the Declan Rice situation, I wanted to hold off. I wanted to make sure that we've got some really good expert insights and really dedicated shows on Declan Rice to come. So make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure you turn those notifications on so you never miss a show. Make sure that you're thanking Stephen in the chat box as well for his very kind generosity. I will see you tomorrow morning, and maybe we'll have some even more news to talk about regarding some other players and progression in the Timber deal too. Have a fantastic Thursday, and as always, up the Arsenal.